Within a couple years of RMC hitting the scene, I believe one of the most sought out conversions was to have Gwazi converted into a hybrid roller coaster. Well, this aging GCI coaster was shut down in 2015, but it just sat there for a few years. It wasn't until 2018 when we started getting hints that maybe RMC will actually take a stab at Gwazi. Well, fast forward 1 year and Iron Gwazi was officially announced. The biggest shock of this announcement was that instead of keeping this conversion close to its original stats, Gwazi only stood 105 feet, they were going to make it considerably taller and faster. Iron Gwazi has a height of 206 feet, a track length of 4,075 feet, hits a max speed of 76 miles per hour. The ride also features 2 inversions and a vertical descent of 91 degrees. Well, coaster enthusiasts had to wait even longer because even though it was supposed to open up in early spring of 2020, the pandemic happened and the ride's opening date was pushed back to unknown. Finally, after 2 years of waiting, Iron Gwazi opened to the public earlier this year. The ride became an instant hit, garnishing top marks by coaster enthusiasts and the GP. I was told by many that this is the best roller coaster on the planet, so naturally my enthusiasm was adrenalized. At the end of April, I got my first rides on Iron Gwazi, and now I'm ready to share my thoughts on this alleged #1 coaster. Presentation. I know I've been slamming a lot of the new for 2022 coasters, well, basically just SeaWorld parks like Icebreaker and Pantheon, in regards to their lack of theming. Unfortunately, the trend will continue here, but not to the same level. Iron Gwazi really doesn't have that much theming besides the reused Gwazi station, purple track which is dope, and the neat Zero cars themed to a crocodile. When we take a look at the theming aspects to the other roller coasters at Busch Gardens Tampa, we will see that Iron Gwazi is just a little under par when compared to the others. This coaster is new, so the landscaping hasn't grown in yet around the ride, especially in the backstage areas. With that said, I don't expect much will change in the backstage areas. As much as I'd like some more trees planted throughout the infield, I doubt it will happen. This station is typical, it has a nice sign. Most of the coasters at Busch Gardens have minimal theming with their station, but it's really the atmosphere, the landscaping that makes up for the theming. Iron Gwazi doesn't have much of that landscaping, which is its downside. Overall, this is a little under par in presentation when compared to the other coasters at Busch Gardens, but not by much. I'm not going to hold Iron Gwazi to the same standards I did with Icebreaker. That is located at an Orlando park. This is Tampa, so there's a little bit more wiggle room in this category. I'm giving Iron Gwazi a score of 6 for presentation. Ride intensity. Iron Gwazi starts off with a slow climb up its 206-foot first drop. At the top, the train comes to a crawl before taking that 91-degree plummet back to Earth. Once this coaster starts moving, it never lets up till you are sitting on the brakes. Iron Gwazi flies into its first element, an outer banked turn. This is a snappy, forceful maneuver that has strong ejector airtime. Before this element gets going, you're already exiting the maneuver and traveling up into the next element, the death roll. This is a downward barrel roll that produces some ejector at the beginning of the element, followed by strong laterals. This also has some of that upside down airtime that I've been talking about in my favorite airtime moments video. The next element is an overbank turn that you fly through at breakneck speeds. Watching it on the ground, it looks insanely fast. The ride then enters a wave turn of sorts that flies over the station. This is one of my favorite elements of ejector airtime. After a 90-degree turn, Iron Gwazi enters its second inversion, a 0G stall. This is a fun moment because you are upside down for a second or two while flying through the wooden structure. After this inversion, Iron Gwazi pops up into a turn that has some airtime exiting the element, followed by another turn that leads into our last moment of airtime, which is the closest you'll get to a traditional airtime hill. This leads into a low to the ground turn that pops up into the brakes. The coaster comes slamming into the brakes, like you feel like this ride should continue on for like another 1,000 feet or so. So overall intensity, Iron Gwazi is what I expect from RMC. It's not the most intense RMC like Lightning Rod, but I'd rank it up in the upper tier. The coaster that keeps coming to mind when I'm thinking of Iron Gwazi would be Storm Chaser at Kentucky Kingdom. It's a larger and faster version. Airtime intensity is at the top. Positive G's not as much, which is typical of RMC, but as long as one of those subcategories is overly aggressive, which is in this case airtime, I think a 10 score is appropriate for ride intensity. Fun factor. Iron Gwazi is an ejector airtime machine. Forget about floater, this is all about intense airtime. There may not be as many moments of airtime like on Steel Vengeance, but each moment hits hard. Surprisingly, Iron Gwazi only has two inversions, the death roll and 0G stall. Both are solid inversions, with a highlight element being the death roll. The pacing on this attraction is amongst the best of any roller coaster. Iron Gwazi loses zero momentum, keeping up that fast pacing right into the brakes. Bottom line, if you like ejector airtime, you're going to love Iron Gwazi, thus giving Fun Factor a 10 score. Before we move on, let's talk operations. Iron Gwazi operates with two trains that can hold a total of 24 passengers each. When I was timing their dispatches, and this was on a Friday when they had 2 people manning the trains, their dispatch times were averaging at 2 minutes and 45 seconds, which isn't really that great. I think the biggest offender is the seatbelt lap bar combo. Riders must buckle their seatbelt, wait for the ride-op to check it, then pull down the lap bar and have the ride-op come back once again to check the restraint. I'm not sure what their staffing needs are for Busch Gardens, but Iron Gwazi could really use a couple more ride-ops to send those trains. Originality. For a coaster manufacturer that tends to include a lot of similar elements, it was nice to see them try new things on Iron Gwazi. The death roll may be similar to the downward barrel roll, but it's taken at higher speeds, thus stronger laterals in airtime. The outer bank turn, again, not a new element, but crank up the speed and you have a slightly different experience. By not including traditional 0G rolls is actually refreshing, as it became a staple inversion with RMC, hitting its pinnacle on Steel Vengeance, which has 3 0G rolls. The ending of Iron Gwazi is where things start to lose creativity. After the 0G stall, the next couple of elements, though maybe exciting with intense airtime, feel uninspired, kind of like they didn't know what to do before wrapping things up. Because of that lackluster ending, I'm going to remove 1 point, thus giving Originality a score of 9. Ride Smoothness. This is an RMC, so we know that this category is going to be a 10. This coaster is incredibly smooth, making every one of those snappy transitions comfortable. The restraints I know some have a problem with, but I think they're fine. It's better than the ones found on Icebreaker, that's for sure. Alright, the final score comes to 9, which is an excellent rating. Iron Gwazi, in my opinion, may not be the best roller coaster by Rocky Mountain construction, but what you have here is a great ride that has incredible pacing, fun elements, and of course, plenty of airtime. Iron Gwazi fits in perfectly at Busch Gardens, filling in that much-needed airtime attraction. Being a hyper-hybrid roller coaster, this basically takes care of that hypercoaster need, all while adding variety to keep itself unique from Mako, the closest hypercoaster to Iron Gwazi. My personal score, it's going to be a 9.5. This is a fantastic coaster, yet somehow, as you probably noticed with my tone, I'm not super jazzed with Iron Gwazi. It does a lot of things right. Excellent pacing, great airtime, neat elements, but at the end of the day, I guess it doesn't hit my wow factor that I was hoping it to do. This ride simply meets expectations, doesn't exceed them. To me, this is a taller, faster, slightly more intense version of Storm Chaser at Kentucky Kingdom. By no means is that a jab at this coaster, because Storm Chaser is a great ride. I was expecting this to rival Steel Vengeance, but instead we got a great top 5 RMC. Well, that's gonna do it for today's review. What do you think of Iron Gwazi? Is this the best roller coaster on the planet, or just another top tier RMC, which is actually saying a lot? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you're not subscribed, give my channel a follow. That way you continue to get more great content brought to you by Extreme Thrills.